Hello everyone and welcome to BHD Studios and welcome to my first look not of the GA645Zi but of this camera right here, the GFX100RF. Now I did shoot my first impressions video right after the media brief with Fujifilm Canada, and so thank you Billy and Mark and the rest of the team for allowing me to sit in on that. But this is the first time I've actually had this camera in hand, and I really did my best to not shoot a video and talk about my own thoughts about it. Just because you really need to have these cameras in hand before you talk about it. But before we talk about this camera, I thought I would talk a little bit about these magazines that I have here, but as well as these cameras here. This is the GA645, and I would say this was the last the last medium format camera, all-in-one medium format camera, and we could even call this a point and shoot, which is kind of an understatement, but this was a very unique. It has a zoom lens, which is really unique, but there was a non-zoom version of this as well, which I bought way back in the 1990s. Actually, it was 2000, 2000 when I bought my first medium format Fujifilm point and shoot. Even has a, there you go, pop-up flash, which is really cool. But this is and was my favorite medium format camera, not because it's the most powerful or the largest format, there's 6.7 and 6.9 and stuff like that, but 6.45, you got the most shots per roll, but it is the most compact that you can take with you. So I've taken this to Hong Kong with me. I have the original GA645i that I took to Japan, and so having a medium format that's this small form factor really appeals to me. And so that's why I was so excited about the GA645, the GFX100RF, because this is the last time they ever made something like this. And so super excited, but I thought we'd just move these out of the way and talk about these magazines. So I'll be right back. Actually, let's just bring these two back here and just leave them off the side. But so back in the day, I collect magazines of all sorts, including camera magazines, and Asahi Camera and Nihon Camera were the two, and I think there was Kappa as well. But the Asahi and Nihon Camera were the two biggest camera magazines, and other than the cover page, the most expensive advertising will be the back page, right? And as you can see on the back of, I would say, 80-90% of the magazines was always Fujifilm, which shows you how much money, power, and influence they had all throughout the 1990s, which was really, I would say, the pinnacle of Fujifilm's prowess in the photo industry, because they made paper, they made chemistry, they made film, they made cameras, they made wet labs, 1-hour machines, even like sheet paper and chemistry for darkroom labs for hobbyists. They made everything, and so they had a lot of power, influence, and money. And here is, this is from 1998. This is the GA645Zi advertising. And then here we have a magazine from 1999, beautiful cover page here. And this is the TX1. And then here is the original GA645i. And this is from 1996. And this is, again, still Nihon Camera. And then here we have a class A, in Japanese we say kurase, W in black. And then here, like, we have advertising for film. Again, these are, Japanese magazines open from right to left, right? And so having the back cover, Fujifilm, they're advertising cameras, they're advertising film, they're advertising, this looks like paper, right? Direct crystal. They're advertising, what is this? Quick change, sheet film, I guess, backs. But Fujifilm had some serious cash back then to be able to advertise in these magazines. And there's one more thing I wanted to show you. I have a huge collection of, this is the 2000, the Japan Camera Show, and this showed every camera that was available in Japan, like Japanese camera manufacturers, whatever they produced that year, it was in this catalog, including their MSRP. And here I just have open, this is 2000, this is Fujifilm's medium format film section. Here you can see the TX1, although it's 35 millimeter, it had the width, right? 65 millimeters. That's the width of medium format. And here's the GA645Zi. Here's the GW690 Mark III. So this is their Texas Leica, but there's also a GW680 Mark III, GWS, so the wide version 690, and the GSW 680 Mark III, the wide version, and then they had the GX680 Mark III as well as the S version, and then the GX617. So that's like what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 medium format cameras back in 2000. And so I thought I would just share this just so that you understand my enthusiasm for Fujifilm medium format cameras. Right here, again, GA645ZI, and then now the new GFX100RF. And so let's move these out of the way and then bring back the other Fujifilm cameras, right? So again, I'll be right back. And just to get the elephant out of the room, Take does have a Leica Q3, and so a lot of people are kind of talking about these two. It makes sense that Fujifilm would target this camera as, if you want to call it competition. To me, it's more about money. You know what? I think what $6,300 US for this, $5,000 US for this. When Fujifilm or any camera manufacturer does product planning, the first thing they figure out is what will be the MSRP. So they're sitting down with the engineers, the designers, marketing, sales, and they basically say, hey, like if we make a medium format all-in-one medium format fixed lens digital camera, how much can the market bear? Like what price point do we hit? And that 5,000 price point was decided before they even started making this camera, and that's how product planning works. And with that, then they work backwards and say, well, then what can we make with $5,000? Like what features can we put in there? Now, clearly, Fujifilm could have easily put a, say, a 45mm f2.8. That would have been bigger, but it would have added to cost. They could have easily put in IBIS. They just would make it thicker, heavier, and again, it would just cost more. So if this camera here had a 45 f2.8 and it had a built-in IBIS and it had all these other features, I mean, I think a flash would have been nice, Fujifilm. I think you could have done it for less, but either way, it would have been about the same price as a Q3, and I think Fujifilm purposely didn't want to hit Q3 pricing, and so that's one reason why. I'm pretty sure there's other reasons why I think it's important that people can see that Fujifilm, I think they hit the right price point, and I think they hit all the right features for $5,000, not necessarily to directly compete, because for me, the Leica Q series is a very different type of camera. You can see the, I even took product pictures, but you could see in terms of size, clearly this is bigger, but in terms of weight, this is actually slightly heavier. But when you're holding it in hand, you can't really tell the difference. But you know, I did shoot one photo today, and I'll post it here. I did shoot at 28-1.7 in front of Revolver Coffee, and then a shot at 35 f4 or 28 f3.1 or 3.2 equivalent, and you can clearly see there is a depth of field difference. This has a much shallower depth of field, and so I mean, you know, it's just math, right? f1.7 versus f3.2. Obviously, you're going to get shallower depth of field, but for me, I was out shooting mostly at f11. All right, so let's just move this beautiful camera out of the way, and let's just feature Fujifilm's cameras here. I'll be again right back. Again, before I forget, I use this a lot. This is the EFX20 flash unit. I'm sorry that Fujifilm had to discontinue it. I know why, because nobody was buying it. This was originally designed for the X100 and the X Pro 1, and you can even tell by this a little rubber foot here. So if it's on a flat camera like this, that little rubber foot basically sits and rests up against the flat part there. It wasn't really meant for the XT1, XT2, because that little rubber feet is kind of floating, but this is, I've used this on Leicas, on Ricos, but you just basically shoot it in manual mode on this half. So you move it over here, and you could do manual output, 1:1 to 1/64th power output. But on Fujifilm, you just put on TTL, and it's a really nice balance. I personally like it down to about -1/3 to -2/3. You tend to get the best balance. But you know, flash sync, the way I shot with this camera today was, because I'm doing street photography, you can even see it's already set 1/1000th of a second, so I know that I will freeze the moment. But with flash sync, this can sync up to 1/4000th of a second. So let's just take this off. Nice metal hot shoe cover here, easy to lose, like that. Bang, and now you have this. And you know, because the forehead of this camera is quite big, having the flash actually balances a little bit nicer. So I'm glad I kept my EF-X20 flash, and I think the price of this flash is going to get even more expensive because of cameras like the X100. Although again, I don't see many X100 shooters shooting with flash, but with f4, and like I said, for me, I'm shooting at f11 right now. Here you can see f8 here, but you know, I'm a street shooter, and so for me, I'm rarely at f4. It's too for me, I want deeper depth of field, so I'm at f11 most of the time on the street, and I'll be posting images here where I was shooting at my favorite corner in Chinatown in front of the barbecue shop there, f11, and then throughout the Chinatown as I'm walking through, f11, sometimes with flash, sometimes without flash, and then when I went indoors, obviously I went to f4, and when I did some test shots of revolver, I was at f4, but mostly f8, f11. For full frame, I'm usually at f8, and APS-C, I'm at f5.6 for street. And so for me, starting at f4, I get it. I mean, what is this lens here? This lens, it is a zoom, but it's f4.5 to 6.9 from 55 to 90. So this is a zoom lens, which I really like about this camera, but 55 to 90 at 4.5, so there you go. So for someone like me, 4.5, f4, medium format, I'm used to f4. I think f4 is fine. To make, if this was f3.5, so it would have been a 2.8 equivalent, I would have been a little bit nicer. I wish they could have just made it slightly bigger for f3.5, but f4, more than happy, because I'm rarely going to be shooting at f4 anyways. I do like the way this lens hood works. I was wondering, like, why is there these double knurled? So this thing here obviously is focus or whatever. I guess you can custom set this to whatever. This here you twist like this, and these two little, see these two little notches? They fit in these two little notches, so you can basically line it up so this hood doesn't have to spin, right? So that's actually kind of an ingenious way. It does make this thicker. There's a piece of glass there, a filter to keep this weather sealed. So once you put this on, so without it, it's actually kind of thin, right? And here's the X100. I do have a square hood on here, and maybe on camera it might not look much smaller. It's significantly smaller and significantly lighter, but again, you're going from APS-C to digital medium format, so that's kind of a huge leap. But I think the X100F to me is the prettiest X100. What do you guys think? I like it. I like the slightly rounded edges. I like the little notch on the side here. I like that this line, the leatherette line, doesn't perfectly match up. It's a little bit higher here, a little bit lower here. And I love this brown leatherette. I can see this with the brown leatherette, or even the X106. Put a brown leatherette, Fujifilm. I think it looks fantastic. But this, I love this camera here. But only issue is I'm not a 35mm shooter, right? So this is a 35mm equivalent. I always use the adapter, the WCL X100, and you got the 28mm equivalent. And so having this, I mean, this is to me a dream come true. I mean, if they made a 28mm equivalent built-in lens on the X100, I'd be just as happy, but they just happened to put this 28mm. So for me, the Leica Q series always been 28. The Ricoh GR1 since 1996 has been 28, and then we had a 21 version for fun, and then now they have the 40mm. But to me, if you have a camera that can crop in and you have a point-and shoot, you want wide. At least for me, I want wide. Everyone's trying to do portraits with point and shoots. Like, to me, something like this shouldn't really be about portraiture, but I understand if you do wedding photography, you could do group shots with this. I recommend a punch-in to a 35mm equivalent. I think it's like a 45, so it's the first digital crop. But besides that, I mean, who's this camera for? I still haven't figured out. It's definitely for people like me, but for the average person, I don't know. You have to kind of figure it out. You have to really play with this. And Fujifilm is doing these touch and try events all across Canada. I'm sure all over the world as well. Overall, I mean, this is such a beautiful camera. And this is my first shooting impression. I did get a chance to shoot with this out on the streets of Vancouver. And one thing is, I do wish there was more custom functions or like a D-pad, but there's no D-pad. This is a AFL AEL. I actually changed this to film simulation, and then this one here, this is the only real unmarked button. It would be nice to have two marked buttons. I don't mind the focus selector. I wouldn't have minded it if it was over here, but since it's here, it's really easy and quick to switch. When I do video, overhead video, I like to go continuous, or you go to singles where it's most of the time, or if you go to manual, then you can back focus here. But I did change this to film simulation. This dial here basically feels like the X100 dial that's over here, so it's very intuitive, and it does have like the one and then the long press version. So basically you have 4 custom functions and a button here. You have the front dial here, the front dial, you have the back dial, you have a nice exposure compensation dial. This dial here that we've had forever on the X100 and the X Pro series with the shutter speed. And again, for me, I like the shutter speed up here because on the street, it's quick and easy and intuitive to just go 1/500th of a second, 1/1000th of a second. And I can just physically see 1/1000th of a second, f11 at ISO. Basically, it would end up being about ISO 1600. So I would go ISO 1600 like this, and now it's ready to rock the Casbah. Or you could just go continuous or auto ISO setting here, but I could see everything, and that's what I love. On and off here is perfect. Super used to doing that. And this dial right here for your aspect ratio. Now, I am a huge I teach visual storytelling, and I talk about how aspect ratio is a storytelling tool. And so having the native 4:3, and then it gets it starts going this way more. So you got 4:3, and then you got 3:2, 16:9, 65:24, which is the X-Pan TX1, TX2, and then you have the 17:6, which is, well, what's that? That's the GX617. It was basically the medium format version of the X-Pan. And then you actually have a vertical 3:4. You're thinking, well, why would you have a vertical 3:4? Why wouldn't you just go like this? And I think it's their cheeky way, because these cameras, a lot of you guys might not know, because it's 120, it's medium format roll film. Basically, the film goes from left to right this way. So when you shoot, everything is actually in vertical mode. So that's how this camera was actually shot. So that makes sense. So it's basically a cheeky way of kind of homage to this. So this camera is an homage to the GA645, homage to the TX1, TX2, an homage to the GX617. And so it continues the tradition of Fujifilm making all-in-one medium format cameras. So out in the street, I love these little lugs here. I don't know what you call it. So once you get used to it, for me, it's like perfectly flat horizontal this way. It's at f8. So from here, f8, you go this way, you have f4, and you go this way, you're going the other way. So that's a nice design feature. Happy that they're using eyelet lugs instead of the slotted lugs. It makes sense to have it this way here. The telezoom here, using it in conjunction with the aspect ratio, was a lot of fun. And again, I think that it's great to be able to play with aspect ratio, and with 100 megapixels, punching in to all these various aspect ratios makes a lot of sense. And even back in the film days, when you had medium format, one of the big advantages, like a Hasselblad 6x6 square, a lot of magazine work was done on Hasselblads because you got a lot of negative space. And if it was like a cover photo, it was closer to 5x4. If it was a double page spread, you can have it more like a panoramic shot. You could crop it anywhere you want, lots of room to put copy. One of the advantages of, some people are like, oh, I don't crop. It's like, well, with medium format, that was one of the reasons why you shot medium format. It wasn't just for ultimate resolution, but it was also the fact that you can crop. So I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the fact that with these dedicated dials, I did find this was a little bit low. I wouldn't mind if this was switched. I wouldn't mind this digital crop was a little bit higher, and then this front dial was a little bit lower. But besides that, it was pretty intuitive. I mean, when you first get the camera, you're trying to figure out all of how everything works. But once I got going and I knew right here I would quickly change my aspect ratio, punch in, punch out. And I do like the zooming where you can see the frame line. Some people might not like it, but with this here, you can control that, right? If you want to just see black bars, and as you punch in, you're actually physically zooming in, you can see it, or you just see the lines kind of showing as you go in. I prefer the lines, but you get the option to do that. We could really customize this camera any way you want. And so I'm not going to be talking about image quality or anything like that. I'm used to this 102 megapixel sensor. I'm used to all the film simulations. I love the way they look. I love how you can basically do all your cropping in camera, your selection of aspect ratio, a lot of fun, which helps you with framing. And then in camera, you can do raw conversion to TIFF, HEIF, or JPEGs, and then you could use your app, you could upload it to your app, you could share to socials, or you could share it to whoever, or whatever you want to do with the images, or you could just use the dual card slot over here, which is also nice. MPW 235 battery, which is really nice. And then you have all your I/O. I'm never gonna use this for video, or maybe in an emergency, but this is not really, I mean, it can do video. I would have been happy if they just said forget video and have put no video in here. I do like this articulating screen like the X100. So there were times where I was shooting down low, so that's nice. Nice and flat. I'm glad it doesn't fold out or anything like that. But overall, I'm super excited. In fact, I'm so excited, I'm probably going to buy one of these things. And I'm going to get the silver one because I actually think the silver one looks really pretty on camera. But also, to me, it just has more of a classic look. As you can see, X100F is in silver with the brown leatherette. This is in silver. This here is in champagne color. And this is in the Dura, not the Dura silver. Actually, I tried to get Dura silver, but the Dura black came out first. It shows fingerprints more. But anyways, I actually did want the silver version. So I'm a silver camera person. And as you can see, I'm a rangefinder style person. And this camera is perfect because I love 28. So this 35 f4, I have no problems with this lens. I think this lens is awesome. And because you can crop in, you could shoot a 35mm if you want. 35mm equivalent. And you're not losing that much resolution. And so this is my first look. My first shooting impressions with the GFX100RF. Again, thank you so much Fujifilm Canada for this loan. I will be getting a review unit in maybe a month or so, and then I'm going to be trying to buy this thing, and we'll see how popular this camera is. Congratulations Fujifilm for making this camera. I think the black one's going to sell better. Again, one thing is I wish it had a pop-up flash or a built-in flash, but again, I don't mind using something like the EFX20. I think it looks awesome on this camera. It's just like it was made for this, and I can imagine on the black GFX100RF it would look even more stealth, but this is it. So cool. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you soon, and happy shooting.